Hello, welcome back to Action Sports Rule Season 2, and I am so excited to be back after an amazing Season 1. It's just great to be back, and I'm bringing you guys an amazing episode from my good friend and director of Graystone, Kevin Gray. Now, what's Graystone, you may be asking? Graystone is arguably the most innovative skate park / action sports academy. It is so many things in one, and there's so much more to come, and you can hear all about it in this brand new podcast. Enjoy. So, tell me a bit about you.
Well, me, I am 49 years old, been into action sports my whole life, but most recently, I guess the main one I've been into is snowboarding, living in the French Alps. That was a natural thing for me, and being in the mountains, mountain biking is part of that. Skated a very little bit in the 90s, but BMX, certainly in this park, I'll probably spend more time on a BMX than a skateboard.
Yeah.
But at my age now, I have to kind of ease back a little bit, to say the least.
Yeah,
never been very good.
So you take part in action sports?
I certainly do, yeah.
Sick. So, for the people that don't know, what is Graystone?
Well, Graystone is a combination, really, of a skate park, but with a lot of the reduced injury training facilities that you need for that. So the trampolines to the foam pit, the sprung floor for gymnastics. They're being used by all kinds of athletes, whether they're skiers, BMX, skateboards. It's much more of a whole, more of an encompassing training regime now, rather than just purely focusing on your one sport. A lot of these sports now realise that the core strength, the conditioning, the air awareness from other sports will help you in your own sport. So if you're a skier, spending time trampolining, core strength on the sprung floor is useful. So that's why we built it.
What's your role in Graystone?
I'm one of the owners and director. I'm more the operations director, so I'm here making sure everything is delivered on a day-to-day basis, that the service is good, everything's safe, and the park looks great.
Okay, well, let's go from the beginning. How did you get started?
We got started initially as a project with a company called Woodward. They've got camps like this in America, and we were working with them for a couple of years trying to find us a UK location for them to establish Woodward into Europe. We worked with them for a little while. We came close on a few sites. This came onto our radar while we were working with them, this building, but they temporarily pulled out themselves for focusing on other projects in Mexico and a big project they're doing in Salt Lake City. But my business partner and I decided that we would go ahead without them. The Graystone name was initially a company name we registered as long ago as 2012 because it would have been a Woodward branded facility. We were looking to build a Woodward, but Graystone Action Sports was kind of our company that was going to operate the Woodwards. As Woodward kind of pulled out, we just went ahead on our own with our own name.
Yeah. It's really interesting to hear how you started, because really, Graystone is the UK Woodward. Do you have any really big future plans?
There's lots of plans, I guess, until we get them open. They are just that. But yeah, we have big plans to open more of these around the country, including potentially a sleepaway camp with accommodation, like a rural location, where people would stay for full week stays in the summer or weekend trips. So we're looking at that project, but that's the first step. Will be a few more buildings just like this one in Manchester, in other locations around the country.
Do you have any ideas where you think you might put them, or is it?
They're all ideas. There's confidential agreements, unfortunately, have been signed on some locations, but there'll be from the south coast to Scotland. There's 4 projects that we're currently looking at or working on. They may all come off. It may be that none of those get the full green light, but we're certainly working hard to kind of expand what we offer here in Manchester.
Yeah. This one's a bit more in depth. A lot of people say Graystone's overpriced. What's your response?
Our response is most skate parks opened up and many of them fail or they need charitable help. We don't have charitable status, so we need to pay our bills. So if people say it's overpriced, we try to offer off-peak times. So whereas the most expensive time would be £12 for a couple of hours, I agree for a lot of skaters that is expensive, but compared to the leisure market, if you're going to go to a bowling alley with your children, you're going to go to a trampoline park and pay £9 or £10 for 1 hour. We feel at its most expensive, £12 for 2 hours in the leisure market offers good value. I just think people in the skate industry, we're trying to compete in some respects with outdoor, which is free, and with a lot of skate parks that have been set up in the past and have unfortunately failed because people, or skaters specifically, weren't willing to pay enough. But that's one of the reasons we built this project, was there's a sector of the market that will happily pay a few pounds extra to have a better quality product with a nice bar and a restaurant, good viewing area, and what we like to offer is great customer service.
I mean, I certainly agree. You've pretty much said what I was going to respond with. I've spoken to a couple of people now, and when you put it in comparison to, say, like Projects, which is another skate park around here, obviously you have to, it's going to be more for Greystone because you're getting that inside. Like Projects don't have to pay for heating. You guys do. Something like that. But also, I think another thing as well, a lot of people overlook, you're not just paying for that main bowl, and that's all you can do. You get everything. Not just the main bowl, you get the mini ramp, the big air, the gymnastics areas. And I think that is one of the bigger pros for Greystone. I totally agree. Yeah. You've got quite a few staff now. You've been going for a couple of years. What do you look for?
I guess the ideal member of staff for us is someone with multiple skill sets so that we can have that flexibility. They can teach a skateboard lesson or a scooter. They can be someone that can work in the park, but they've also got bar restaurant experience to help us out upstairs in the bar and restaurant. So obviously in the kitchen, we're looking for very specific skills with chefs. But for other staff that work with us, there's a lot of part-time staff. Our demands are very much weekend. There's a lot of demand for Greystone at the weekend. Our full-time staff, like as I said, really it's that flexibility, great customer service, a passion for the sports we offer, and just that friendly, warm, welcoming personality that we want from all of our Greystone staff.
Yeah. Well, talking about things like the restaurant, why did you go with something like a high-quality restaurant with a chef compared to other skate parks that just have a microwave?
That was a key ingredient for us to make it an attractive proposition for parents that want to children will be happy in any skate park if the ramps are cool. But for mum and dad that are driving them there and spending a couple of hours of their Sunday or Saturday afternoon standing around waiting, if it's cold in winter, nowhere nice to sit and relax, it's not such a nice experience for the parents, and they'll be less willing to bring their children to the park. So we feel it's a win-win because the children are happy. If mum and dad are happy, they're going to bring them here more often.
No, I totally agree. What's Greystone doing to make the park more accessible, especially with sports like WCMX coming in a lot more?
It's an ongoing project for us. As you all know, the first step was removing the stairs into the park and changing that to a ramp. With future projects, it's looking at how we can make getting into them as an initial part of the design process so that there's an opening, so that there's something like almost a gate-style facility so that you can get, whether it's a bowl or the plaza type of facility, there's a way to get into those easier. But for us, retrofitting here with more accessible steps, as you've seen, we've got some steps that get us into the park, looking for a gentle ramp to get you in as well that will work in the same way. It will hook onto the coping and be a slope down into the plaza, so it's not such a daunting experience for a first-time WCMX rider.
Yeah, that's definitely interesting because you're essentially just getting the bowl and turning it into, I guess, can't think what they're called now. Can't think what they're called. A bank.
A bank, yeah.
Bloody hell, my mind's gone blank there. What's your personal favourite thing about Greystone?
My favourite thing about Greystone, I think it's a strange thing to say, it's the atmosphere and the vibe. I would always call it the vibe, the positivity from everyone that comes through the door, whether they're GB Olympic athletes from various sports that come and train and work with us here, to first-time beginners having their first ever experience out in a skate park, seeing how such a positive experience and they pretty much falling in love with the sports and the feeling that they get while being at Greystone.
Yeah, for sure. My next question. Recently, you've opened up investing in Greystone. If someone's interested to do that, what they need to do?
Well, unfortunately for now, they have to wait for the next round of investment because that one's closed off. But we have taken investors in recently as part of an investment round to help us build a new floor in our back area, what we call the playground of the parkour zone. And it's funding a new steel floor to give us more capacity, really, because we've often been sold out at weekends. And we're looking to get some more space that people don't get disappointed and can't come. And to add something that was always supposed to be here from the beginning, which was the bouldering. So that's something else that we're looking to add. Our next funding round will probably be when we've found and we're sort of completed on another location. I'm sure we'll put in details online if we are looking to take any more investors on at that time.
Yeah. Right, I've spoken to a couple of people about Greystone. Some people say it's best for BMXers. Some people say it's best for skaters. Some people say it's best for scooters. Do you think it's best for any specific discipline?
I don't think it's best for any specific discipline. I would say for BMX riders, the park would need to have a rhythm section. We've got the resi and the foam pits. You can learn a trick on that, but we don't have the wooden ramp to kind of take it to the next level, again, because of space. The plaza is usable by all equally, the street section, the plaza there. And again, the bowl works equally well whether you're riding on a BMX, a skateboard or a scooter. Because I suppose the playground area in some of the new areas are more slightly skate-led, If I'm in all honesty, it's probably got more for skateboarders than it has BMXers at the moment. But that's just a relatively arbitrary statement. Everyone's got their own feelings on what works for them.
Yeah, yeah. Why do you think it is that Graystone is so popular, taking over competitors in the areas such as, say, Rampworks or Ramp 1?
I guess it's popular from the reasons we discussed earlier, the good customer service, the fact that we have a real chef. My business partner and I, we come from a hospitality background. That was one of the visions for opening Graystone, the passion for action sports, but also to bring a new level of customer service. It wasn't something that people expected before. Whether it was a skate park, a trampoline park, or a bowling alley, you wouldn't automatically associate that with good quality food, a wine list, craft beers, and great customer service. We wanted a restaurant and bar to be the sort of place that would stand up on its own in a city centre and people want to come to. In other leisure destinations, not just skate parks, it's always an afterthought with a sandwich and a cup of tea if you're lucky.
Yeah, yeah. Interesting. A lot of people say Greystone's just a skate park. Would you say that's different?
It's a skate park is the core of what Graystone really is. But we do have the sprung floor for gymnastics, we have the trampolines, we have the parkour, and we're very soon going to have bouldering. So there's definitely more to it, but a skate park is our DNA, it's the core of what we do, and it's the main feature of Graystone, that's for sure.
Who do you reckon is Greystone's biggest competitor?
Well, we tried to create a new product, so I don't feel at the moment we have one in the UK. There are similar type facilities around. There's places that do have skate parks with some trampolines or with some climbing, but we don't really pay too much attention to, we want to kind of increase the sports. We're not looking to hurt our competitors or other skate parks. We're actually looking to get more people participating in these sports, which brings the whole industry up together. It's not about stealing skaters and BMX riders or scooter riders from other skate parks. For us, we're teaching new people, bringing new people by offering the customer service, the good quality product we have. We're getting new people at a very young age into the sports we offer that should hopefully help everyone in the industry.
Okay, interesting. These next few are about money. If you don't want to answer any specific details, that's totally fine.
Of course.
How much did it cost roughly to build Graystone?
Roughly, we spent in the beginning, and this one I'm happy-ish to share, just about £1.5 million was spent on the business to get it up and running.
Yeah, that's quite a lot of money. How much does it cost to run? I mean, obviously, it must be fairly expensive with things like heating and rent of just the building. Yeah,
I mean, that's probably a too confidential question that I'd not be willing to share, but there is a lot of pressure on us. Our overheads are very high. The industry standard, we've got a very big building, and Manchester rents vary between sort of £5 and £8 a square foot. And we've got a lot of square feet here.
Yeah.
So people could do the maths. But yeah, our payroll, we have sort of up to 40 staff working here, around sort of 14, 15 of them full-time, around 25 part-time staff. So there's a lot of staff. Insurance is very expensive. So if you're looking at how to run a business like this, certainly the rent is a large portion of our turnover. We've got to pay off some of the loans that we borrowed money to build this in the first place. Payroll is expensive. And unfortunately, things like the rates are very expensive for a building this size as well, which has been one of the advantages coming out of the tough year we've had with lockdown is the help that we've had on the rates. That's definitely helped us kind of come out and survive the other side.
Yeah, for sure. Did COVID-19 affect Graystone badly? I mean, you're still here.
Yeah. It did affect us, and it was challenging, especially as we were a startup. We'd only been open just over a year and a couple of months of trading before COVID hit. And in our first, as like any startup, it takes a while to build up your customers. People didn't know we were here in the beginning. And ironically, it was, just as we kind of got our heads above water and had our first really good month was February 2019. And then we went into some extended lockdown. So we were closed for 8 out of 12 months. But the advantages were it gave us time to finish some things around the building. A lot of people, the sports naturally had a big boost because of the lockdown. A lot of people got into the sports that we offer, which has been helpful. Sure. So overall, we've survived. There's a bit more debt. We'll be paying off some extra debt for the next couple of years.
Yeah. Because
of the lockdown, where we've still got to pay our insurance and our rent and other things like that. But overall, we'll pay that off and we'll be fine.
Yeah, for sure. Why do you think skate parks are important? I mean, you must do. You have built one.
Because people love to skate. People love to ride BMXs, scooters. People want to ride that sensation. Not everyone's into team sports. Not everyone wants to play football, rugby, cricket. There are a lot of individual creative sports like these. And seeing, my own children go into skate parks when they were younger, knowing that there was a demand for what we would call, a facility like Graystone.
Yeah. If you could change one thing about Graystone currently, right where you're at, what would it be?
Oh, if I could change one thing, I'd like to have a bigger building, I suppose. It would be nice to have a little bit more space to add some more facilities to what we've already got. But as a layout, we're very happy with how it's come out. It was a year of designs backwards and forwards and moving things around and changing the layout and trying to get it right. But we're certainly happy with how it's come across. But for now, we like it as it is. We just want more space.
Yeah. I mean, definitely interesting. I think there's not much, I guess, you could do unless you buy out the people next door.
Yeah.
One of the things I wondered, there's been a few big competitions recently held at Graystone. The Skateboard GB stuff's been happening. How does that happen? Do you contact them? Do they contact you?
It kind of works both ways. Yeah, initially we had conversations with Skateboard GB for the very first national champs that we held here early in 2019. Obviously, the spring 2020 ones we couldn't run because of COVID, and that's the one we've just recently done just before we reopened again. It was on the 10th and 11th of April. We have a facility that can, I think that the advantage for us is that we've got the catering facilities for when you're hosting a big competition. The fact that we can put everything on in one, the fact that we're very close to Media City is actually an advantage for us because of getting media in to film and report on these events. That's an advantage for us. But we hosted the initial one for Skateboard GB, and we were a natural step. It was a great event. It worked well, and we were happy to host it again this year.
Yeah, for sure. In terms of building, when you go on to build your next ones, do you think something directly in the city centre would work? Or are you trying to stay more out of the city centre, do you think?
I think it's a balance between the two. We wouldn't want to be very central in a city centre because it would be too expensive in rent. Yeah. But also, we need to be, the most important factor is being close to two boxes we'd like to tick is close to a public transport, so near a train station, and also near a motorway access or a good road network so people can come. It's important that if you're going to build one of these that actually is a viable business, that enough people live around it that they can get there easily. If it's a long drive, if your audience are up to a couple of hours away, they might only be coming once a month, if that. If it's close enough, they're going to be more regular visitors. So periphery, around the edge of a city, and close to good roads, and ideally a train station would be helpful.
Yeah. I mean, you've pretty much got it all here in Manchester. Lots of train stations. It's right off the motorway. It is quite good. Do you think sports like action sports will keep growing as like an industry?
They're on a phenomenal growth. Skateboarding's had lots of waves over the last 30 years of popularity and fading, but it's a different type of wave this time. It's much more acceptable. It's much more mainstream. The fact that it's an Olympic sport, the athletes are taken seriously now. The athletes can make a real decent living. Sponsorship and prize money is consistently it's increasing. There have always been sports that have been in the mainstream marketing and advertising, love to use the images of action sports to sell product, but they've always been kind of a bit of a high barrier to entry for the general public. Sometimes it's been an intimidating place. Again, that's one of the reasons we opened this, so that people didn't feel, as a beginner, intimidated by the hardcore locals, let's say, to come here and get into the sports. But I think the growth will continue. It won't go on forever, but there's definitely more people going to get into sports, and it will be with us for a long time to come.
You spoke about it a bit before. I don't know if you can talk about it more. But do you see Graystone going, I guess, residential with like overnight stays?
Yes, long term. Once we've got a few more centres like what we call this we would call this an urban location for Graystone, where you would need a large population to sustain it, with people coming daily, paying for a couple of hours or longer. What we call a camp model would be a rural location where it would be a larger facility than this, with a lot of outdoor and indoor facilities, but it would need to have accommodation for a few hundred people. That would really be about offering camps. So in the school holidays, we would offer summer camps where children would stay with us for 1 week basis. And then outside of the summer, there would be weekends and different events that we could host that would be people staying there, overnight stays. That's probably more on a 3 to 5 year time frame. In the next 12 months to 3 years, we look at building a few more urban centres, and sort of 3 to 5 years out, looking for a rural camp location.
Yeah. And do you think that would also carry on with skate? Would that just be skating, or would that be all the sports? Like,
it would definitely be all the sports, possibly even adding some water to it, where we could have a cable ski for wakeboarding. But we'd love to have the more sports, the better. You need to be able to draw multiple different disciplines to sustain it.
Yeah. I guess you couldn't really do it here unless they were to sleep in the foam pit.
Yeah, we've joked we would love to be able to, at the back of the car park, stack up. We even talked about a design with sort of shipping containers, making a very cool, modern, urban look. So one day, if the council would give us permission, we would look into potentially putting some accommodation at the back here, but we're not sure it'd ever be allowed.
No. It would be interesting to see. This is, I guess, the final thing of the questions. I do this with quite a few of my guests. I usually do this with riders, but I thought it'd be interesting to get your perspective. I guess essentially a UK skate park tier list. We're going to look at different skate parks, and I want to get your opinion on them as a skate park owner.
Yeah, sure.
So, Adrenaline Alley.
I've only been there once. It's an incredible space. It's huge, and I can see why people are drawn from all over the country to visit. The guys actually that built Graystone 414, they're based there, their workshop's down there. And I know Mandy that runs it does a great job in getting the community active. It's run as a charity. And it does a lot of good work in that community, and a lot of people love the facility. So I can't comment too much about it as a business or how it works, but I certainly know it's an exciting place. They get funding, they can keep continually adding new pieces and making it better, which is great. And it's indoor and outdoor there. And long may it continue to be a mecca for people on wheels.
Yeah. Next up is Hollister. Oh wait, no, it's Rampworks. Because I think it's about the same brightness levels in there. What are your thoughts on Rampworks?
Unfortunately, I can't really comment because I've never been. And it's unusual because I'm in the skateboard park industry, but because I haven't lived in the UK for the last 20 years, I've spent my life in the French Alps and summers in America. I came into this with Graystone, and again, as you talked briefly about the competition, didn't look at where other skate parks were. We didn't really study the competition. We just knew what we set out to achieve with Graystone and didn't really kind of study or look at other skate parks or visit them or see what was going on there. It really was, we knew what we wanted to achieve. So having been to Adrenaline Alley, I can comment, but I haven't actually been to that place.
Okay.
Nor if you any more names that are coming up, I wouldn't be much of an expert because I literally have been here for 2.5 years, 3 years building and working at Graystone, and I don't get out much, as you probably well know.
Yeah. I mean, it is interesting. It's interesting you haven't looked at other skate parks before you built yours.
No, well,
if you were to do this again, if it was 2 years ago, but you have your now knowledge, would you have done that?
I mean, we were aware of a skate park that was in Manchester because it just closed before, it was closing down before we opened. So
Beast Ramps, is it?
Yeah, Beast Ramps. So one of the issues for us was we wouldn't want to kind of put a Graystone 3 miles from a really successful, great UK skate park that was doing great work in its area. So we would actually be much more sensitive to that because when we first came in, we were coming under the Woodward brand and the Woodward name. I guess it's easier to be a little bit not so oblivious, but not so understanding of the existing marketplace that's out there. We are now a bit more understanding of the UK skate park scene than we were when we first opened this one. And again, because we offered ski and snowboarding and we're trying to aim at getting different people, we saw ourselves as complementary, but we certainly would be sensitive to where we open future venues.
Yeah. Was this the location you had decided with Woodward?
This was one that was in a conversation with Woodward. This was there. We did look at it with them, but they were more focused on a camp, like a Pennsylvania-style camp. So we actually did submit an offer for a school in North Wales that had closed down in Denby. It was called Howells School. That would have probably been around 2016, perhaps. I can't even remember the exact time frame. It had closed down, and it's a bit of a Hogwarts-esque 150-year-old beautiful building. It was a boarding school, so the accommodation was there. And we walked around with Gary Ream, the owner of Woodward, and some of his team, and they were so excited about this classical English architecture and having an amazing skate park all around it. And they already had an indoor sports hall in there. There was buildings we could have used on site. So it was an exciting time, but unfortunately our bid to buy the school wasn't high enough. A Chinese company outbid us, I think only by £100,000 at the end of the day. They wanted to turn it back into a private boarding school. So they won it, and that's what it is now. But if things had gone a different way, it could have been a Woodward in North Wales that Graystone would have been operating for about 500 children per week.
Wow. I think that would have been quite funny because you say it's like Hogwarts style. Yeah. It's pretty much the Americans have come in and gone, that looks British, we'll pick that. Yeah. Do you have any notable experiences? Like, did Woodward ever ask you to do anything a bit odd, like American style, that you don't think would have worked, say, in the UK, from what you know now?
No, we never got to any kind of operational, or at that stage we got on really well with them. And we were just part of they were looking at all kinds of expansion around the world into different areas. We just were part of that plan, but they were very hesitant and wary really of moving to the UK. And for us, once they poured their money out and they wanted us, we could have still been a Woodward, but we'd have had to pay a franchise fee to use their name, which would have made the business unsustainable. It's quite an expensive fee for us. We knew how to deliver the business we wanted to deliver. We had the experience in customer service. So while their name would have given us access to global action sports superstars, for the delivery of what we're looking to service here in Graystone, we felt like we could build the brand on our own.
Yeah, do you think maybe that was the wrong decision looking back at it now? Do you think maybe you would have done different?
Not really. It wasn't really a decision that was ours to make. I think Woodward went in another direction. They chose to develop elsewhere. When we were looking to do this on our own, they also objected to how initially this was funded, because we weren't a company like Woodward with millions in the bank. They were wary that we didn't have what they had, which was the money just to do it. We had to borrow money to get this place built. That was something that Woodward didn't, share that vision. They wanted to kind of basically stay in the US and Mexico.
Yeah. Would you venture out to the States, or would you not, purely because Woodward is there?
I think we're looking to stay into Europe, but there's other venues that once, if we get established and things go well for us over the next few years in the UK, we'd certainly look for opportunities around Europe first before we considered America, I think.
Any specific countries in Europe?
No. I mean, skating's popular all over Europe now. Personally, as my family are based in the French Alps, I'm looking into areas around France would be my next natural step. But certainly Barcelona is an amazing city for skating. It's hugely popular there, and coming out of a combination indoor and outdoor. One of the issues that works really well for us in the UK and all indoor skate parks is the weather. When it rains, you can't skate outdoors and you need an indoor facility. If you're to be in Spain or somewhere like this, there's always great outdoor parks and people can use them for free. So it's tough as a business to compete with that when you have to charge people to come in and help you pay your rent.
Yeah, for sure. We've spoke a bit about it in private. You want to grow the Graystone brand. How do you think you're going to try and do that?
I think we've proven now that it works as a concept here in Manchester. We've shown that we didn't really have a marketing budget when we started. It grew by word of mouth, people telling their friends about us because they liked the way they were treated, the way they liked the service from the staff, they liked the fact that it was a clean and a nice environment to bring your children to. So that worked for us. So that brand has now got recognition. People respect what we do. So we may branch out and start, we talked internally about offering things. Next week we might even start offering snowboarding and ski trips under the Graystone brand, where we have a network of people that like what we do. And that's another skill set that certainly, when I'm not here, that's another business that I have a part in the Alps, running a hotel. So we will use that brand as we extend into different Greystones and look at what else we can do that's relevant to us and the sports that we service. Yeah,
for sure. I mean, I think really as like a thing, it does pull you in, the fact that Graystone isn't like every other skate park. You go to like Ramp Works, say, we mentioned that before, Ramp 1, right? You go, and Ramp 1, interesting, was built by 414, I believe, as well.
Yeah.
But it feels so different to Graystone. You go to Ramp 1, and it's like, you would think it would feel the same, built by the same people, and it's in the same area, and it's a skate park, but it just doesn't. I mean, one thing that Greystone's got is the whole, like, aura, I guess. You've got that restaurant, and you've got that customer service. With Ramp 1, once you've gone through that door and you've paid, that's it. Go have fun. Whereas with here, it's not just that. It feels like there's more of a community here. And another thing, keeping it clean. Like, you go to Ramp 1, Ramp Works, or Ramp City. Very imaginative with these names, aren't they? I mean, you go to, like, Ramp City, or Ramp 1, or wherever, and it's full of dust. It's dirty. It's dark. Looks like the building should have fallen down years ago. And when you come to Graystone, that's not the experience you have. It's in a new style industrial area that's very built up. It looks modern. I mean, I look out that window and I can see, big glass skyscrapers. You don't see that when you're at these other skate parks, and I think that is one of the big draws of Graystone.
Yeah, I think the other one is that if you walk around Graystone, you'll always see a large number of staff around. So if parents bringing children, it is very well supervised. We could save a lot of money by having less staff, let people just go out there and do their thing out there. But it is important to us, if you come here on a Saturday morning, you might find as many as 8 or 9 staff. A lot of them will be coaching, but out in the park. So, and we've put all of our staff, we've got 14 staff now that have gone through quite advanced multi-day first aid training. So, we have our staff. It's important to us that not only are there lots of them here and they're friendly and welcoming, but they actually are very well trained in doing their jobs.
Yeah, I mean, when I'm with, I obviously have Rob as my coach. When I'm like at the Mega doing a training session, you walk up, there's that sense of community when people are there. Like, just today, there was a guy who was skiing, right? And he was a bit unsure, and immediately Rob's there and he gave him a tip. And it's like that sense of community and the fact that everybody helps each other is just not something you would get at, say, like Ramp 1, again, just to bring that in. I mean, I've been to Ramp 1 like 3 times now. And it's like, once you go through that door, you're there by yourself. You're not, and you don't get that experience here. And I think that is definitely a really cool thing.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned it at the beginning that people say that Greystone's a little bit more expensive, and we acknowledged that before we opened the doors. But that's the reason you have to pay a little bit more. We also like to take care of our staff and give them good perks of the job, and so that's important to us. So yeah, those a few extra pounds on your visit actually gives you a much better product, we feel.
Yeah. I mean, for the camp, obviously, Greystone camp is not residential at the moment. So if you sign up for it, what do you get? What do you do?
Children come for a full day with us. You basically come from 9:30 in the morning until 3:30 in the afternoon. You basically get a whole day of coaching, lunch is included. There's a mixture. There's 3 specific groups that will sign up. So you can either sign up for, at the moment, scooter camp, a skateboard camp, or a multi-sport camp. So some people will come to our camps because they're really passionate on their scooters. They love riding scooter. They're already quite advanced at it. So they'll spend most of their park time on their scooter, but they'll have a parkour session, the trampolining, they'll have time with other activities. Likewise, if you're in a skateboard group, you'll be skating most of the day with your coach, typically in a group of between 6 and 8 children to a coach. You'll have a skateboard session, then you might have a parkour session, then you have another skate session in a different area of the park. And it's kind of like that throughout the day. And then the other one is the multi-sports. Those are usually children that are new to action sports, haven't learned to scooter or to skateboard yet. And they will have a taster session of both. So they'll have a skateboard lesson, then they might do some trampolining, then they'll have a scooter lesson. And then the next one, they'll choose which of those 2 they preferred, and they might do some more of that sport. And those are typically children from the age of sort of 7 to 9 that are getting into them. And yeah, usually if they're coming with us on a camp, they make a lot of progress. Some children come for the full week. So after 5 days, being with us for 6 hours a day, they've had a lot of coaching, and they're making some good progress. And then new skaters, new people on scooters, and that's good.
Yeah. I mean, you've said, obviously, multi-sport, scootering and skating. Are you looking to add more sports to that, say, like BMX or maybe even rollerblading?
The issue with the BMX is the challenge with BMX is when we're running our camps, they're always sold out, and it's a case of they take a lot of space, and we would like group coaching with Rob, we like to keep much smaller. And as you well know, Rob, our BMX coach, is very popular and very much in demand. Yes. He also does a lot of our videography and some of our media work for us. So there's never enough hours in the week for Rob. So the BMX is, we do have some children that come to our camps that do a little bit of BMX, but it's not something that we can offer a full-day program yet. Bouldering is going to be open for the summer holidays, but we won't offer a specific bouldering camp. It will just be an activity that all of the other camps, whether you're skate or multi-sport, you'll have a session and have an hour with a coach doing some bouldering and climbing.
Yeah. We're going to go back to the building stuff. How long was the building process?
The actual build happened pretty fast. It was only for about 3 or 4 months. We got the keys in middle of July 2018. Builders came on site at the very end of July, beginning of August, to the first works, 414 that built the skate park. They came on towards the end of August, so they were September, October, November. They finished mid-December. So it was 4 months really was the main build phase. The first contractor doing the bar, the restaurant, the kitchen, and not of the physical work to the building started 1 month before 414. They finished in November 2018. 414 finished the park mid-December 2018. So 4 months of work.
Would you say it was a complicated build?
But to my eyes, it looks very complicated when you see the park, the shapes and the curves. But 414 are experts, and a lot of it was obviously it's all pre-designed and machined, and the angles are calculated in their workshops. So some pieces were pre-made before they even came up on site, so it was delivered in pieces. A lot of it was cut and made. The rest of it was obviously cut and put together here. Yeah,
and talking about cutting and putting it together here, up to your left is the wood that made it all happen.
Yeah, that's a nice piece of art, but the whole of the park was cut on that. That was the workbench that was used by 414. So every piece, whether it's the plywood, the corner piece of the bowl, or some of the framing that went underneath it, they were using that to chop the wood and to cut the shapes.
Yeah.
So we figured we'd keep it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, if you didn't know, you would think that's a bit of art, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
It does. It really helps the I guess the aura around it.
Tells the story.
It does. It does. It's really cool. The fact that you can say, you know, down there, I've just gone and wrote on what it was built, and you know,
Yeah, that was the shapes.
yeah, it's very cool. Where's Graystone? Like, not where's Graystone in a location. I mean, where's Graystone in its lifespan? In a company, because obviously when you start a company, right, you have your first phase where you lose money and you invest. Then you have your second phase where you start to break even, and then you're at that third bit where you're all profits, and then you have your fourth one where you die.
Yeah. Well, we're hopefully a long way from that.
Yes.
Graystone's an unusual one because we're a startup. We're technically only sort of almost 2.5 years old now, but we lost a year of that really because of COVID. Of 12 months being closed for 8. Definitely paused and slowed down our growth.
For sure.
But we're at that point where we've got to a profitable level. We're paying our bills every month, which is not something all skate parks can claim to be able to do. So yeah, from a slow start, we've kind of got above the water now, and we're looking to hit, I guess like any business, it's what they call proof of concept. You know, you can have a concept of a new business because this didn't exist before we created it, and that's why it's hard to get investment and to borrow money in the beginning. But once you show a business does work and you've got the financial records to prove and the people coming through the door to prove it, then you can kind of hopefully scale up and repeat that business in other locations and grow the business.
Yeah. Very interesting. So Graystone has a few sponsors. How did you get in with that, and how did that, I guess, get started?
I guess people recognise in the industry, we've been very visible in the industry from hosting national championships. You know, everyone within action sports, not a huge community. People know other businesses around. So people like what we do. We've got a lot of contacts in our network that have introduced us to different brands and had conversations with them. And that's where that's come. They're ongoing. We've worked with some brands and we're always looking for new ones, whether that's DC as a uniform partner. We had Stance initially, did a lot of work with Stance in our first years here. We're just in negotiations with Oakley at the moment, so maybe partnership with those. So yeah, there's always ongoing conversations. And it's just about if we've shown that we're professional, it's an easy win for a brand because we get it right at Graystone, as you've seen from some customer reviews and the positive feedback about the place. As a brand, if you associate yourself with us, then that's kind of usually a win-win. You're not kind of involved with someone that's going to have a negative effect on your brand.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, definitely interesting. I mean, was it Red Bull who sponsored the park runs?
Yes, Red Bull sponsored the park runs for us.
Yeah, definitely interesting. How did you get started with park runs?
It was just an idea because of the fact that there was a lockdown and we couldn't host competitions and no one could travel. And it was a great concept to kind of get people a little bit excited to see some skaters use the park. And we liked the concept of it being an empty park and not being able to see the people you were competing against. And the fact that we're in a lockdown was the perfect scenario for it. We actually had discussed it before the lockdown month when it was filmed, that we were going to run it and they were going to film it of an evening. And it was becoming a very logistical challenge, getting the different athletes to use the park after we closed to the public. So they were going to be using it from 10 p.m. until midnight on weekends. And each person would get their hour, one person from 10 to 11, another one 11 till midnight. But it would have taken a long period of time to get all of the athletes in. And then the lockdown of November came around.
Yeah.
And it was very easy for us to schedule it. But it was, the riders enjoyed it. It was an unusual concept, having that time to run and having a whole empty park to yourself, but not knowing how you've done. There's no one judging it. There's no applause from the crowd because no one was in the building.
Yeah, for sure. Would you be interested in doing another park runs, and would you say do it with different sports, like maybe BMX or even scootering? Yeah,
we did discuss it. At the moment, it's always a case of time. There's so many things that we want to achieve, so much we want to do, and never enough time to do it. But at the point of that one went on, we did say that we would look to put on another one. But it was something that was so well suited to that lockdown period where everyone was at home, not able to do anything. So that the online nature of the competition made it very easy. It was a good fit in future with the park, being able to keep the park empty and have a single skater or single bike or single scooter rider at a time would be a challenge. Our first goal is to put on more competitions. We've hosted national championships, but we would like to put on some more jam sessions, some formats, competitions specifically for children as well, rather than an elite level for adults, but to have a competition structure for younger age groups.
Definitely interesting. I'd be interested in talking to you about obviously in the US with Woodward, when you go to their camp, not only do you have all of the riding aspect, but you also have a bit of media aspect. They have cameras on site and they have editing stuff, so you can sort of learn how to do that. Would that be something you might be interested in?
Yeah, we're definitely looking in that direction. We've just created a small media studio here to help our in-house media team, and we will, over the summer holidays, be offering digital media camps for some of our Camp Graystone clients, really, that want to spend a bit more time learning about the skills of editing, videography, because it's a key part of action sports. It's not such a competition in the same way that team sports, where it's a clear winner in a match. There's competitions, but a lot of it's about expressing yourself, filming yourself, and just getting that content up online. So that's an important aspect for us to add to the digital media side of things.
Yeah, for sure. What about... sorry, my mind's just gone blank then.
Right.
I had the whole question lined up. Do you think there's more of any discipline in Greystone? Do you think there's more scooter riders? Do you think there's more skaters? Or something like that?
At different times of the day and the week, yes, there are. If you come in during a weekend, the peak times, early afternoon, at midday, 2 o'clock on a Saturday or Sunday, there'll be more scooters. But over the course of a week, it's actually not, it's pretty equally balanced at the moment. There's approximately, it's about 30% skate, 30% scooter, 20% bike, and the other 20% are trampolining, parkour, just a general use like that.
Yeah. Would you say there are more older riders or more younger?
The most popular age, I guess, the average age of our users is probably only early teens, because there's more children in this facility than adults. But again, it's at different times. If you come on an evening, it's pretty much an adult-only scene after 7 or 8 in the evening. If you come on a weekend morning, before 10 a.m., everyone's under 6. Our mini shredder sessions have become really popular, and that's for 2 and 3-year-olds for their first kind of use of a park. So it's a very diverse age range from 2 years old to 55 years old.
Yeah, I mean that's crazy, getting really young kids into it. That's not something you really see at other skate parks. What was your, I guess, reasoning behind that?
The demand. People want. Unfortunately, a lot of skate parks have an older age limit than us. We allow 7 and above to use the park at any time on open sessions. But there's always a huge number of people with specifically 3, 4, 5, 6-year-olds. When is a safe time to visit a skate park? Because if a skate park has got a lot of adults riding in there, it's not going to be safe for young children. So that's why we do our early morning sessions of a weekend. And specifically for as young as 2 years old, it's a supervised session. No one over the age of 6 is allowed in the park. And the parents are very hands-on in the park with their children. It's become very popular. Because traditionally, as a parent of a very small child, skate parks would be a fun place for children to roll around on balance bikes and scooters and take a first step on a skateboard. But it's the other people around the park that don't always make it so safe.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it is interesting seeing these, super young riders. I have another question. What was the reason that you've got, gymnastics, you're bringing bouldering? Why have you done that compared to other skate parks? Instead of being a skate park like most others, I guess a multi-sport park, or I guess an activity park. I'm not quite sure what the name would be. Why?
It's just to widen the appeal.
Yeah.
So our target audience is much larger than if we just built ramps only as a skate park only. Less people would be coming to sustain the bar, the restaurant, all those facilities need a large number of people, and to pay our rent really and to cover our overheads. We can't survive. A lot of skate parks can survive with just a few users here and there because their payroll's a lot less, their rent may be less, their overheads are a lot lower. So there's less pressure on them to fill the building. The pressure is on us to have a lot of people coming in and get out of Graystone at all times. And the more sports that you offer, you're naturally increasing the share. We use I guess, the business model. If you look at something like a trampoline park, the first trampoline parks opened about 10 years ago. And it grew from the first one to having over 150, 200 of them scattered around the country everywhere. And we saw that as, standard leisure offering, and just like a bowling alley, just like these. So we wanted to try and attract the standard non-action sports leisure market, people that would go to a trampoline park, people that would go to a bowling alley, people that are just looking for something to do as a family or with their children of an evening or a weekend. And that was why it was important to add other facilities, not just a skate park.
Yeah, for sure. I guess for my final question, what would you say in response to people who say, I guess we've spoken on it a bit before, Greystones, they don't care about the community, they're just here for the money and shit. Because I've heard that a couple times going around, that Greystone are just in it for the money, and it's all this, that. Would you agree? I guess what's your response?
My response is we haven't made any money yet, personally. I'm not here for the money.
Yeah.
We're here because we are passionate we believe in what we do. And if we were in it for the money, we'd have probably put our prices up on the weekends when they're sold out. You know, we've been sold out for the last few months that we've opened on the weekends. But we do want to provide a facility we can be proud of. We want to keep our customers happy. Are we in it for the money? We've got some shareholders that no doubt we have to make sure that we look after their investment. But we've done it the core reason we've done this is because there was a demand for it. There was a market out there that wasn't being met for a quality action sports facility in the country, and we've proven that by the number of people coming through the doors now, and we've proven that in the service that we offer. But if we wanted to get rich, I don't think anyone in the world has ever decided to build a skate park as a get rich quick scheme.
Yeah. I don't know if that would be a very good idea. No. So thanks for coming. If you want to plug yourself and Graystone and stuff.
Oh, no, I think Graystone plugs itself. I appreciate you having me here chatting today, and we know we see a lot of you training here. And thanks for inviting me on, and I'm looking forward to seeing you progress in our skate park.
Thank you for coming on. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Goodbye.
Thank you. Bye.
Why are you still here?